Here's the definition of the word plane, a word that has several other definitions, but in geometry, a plane is a flat, unbounded surface. A plane has infinite length and width, but no thickness, which can also be known as the height. Another definition, coplanar, points, lines, segments, and so forth that lie in the same plane are coplanar. Another definition, non-coplanar, points, lines, segments, and so forth that do not lie on the same plane are non-coplanar. And yet another definition, transversal. A transversal is a line that intersects two coplanar lines in two distinct points. And here's an example. Our lines are lines M and N, and our transversal is the green line labeled line T. Line T is the transversal of lines M and N. The region between lines M and N is the interior of the figure, and the rest of the plane is the exterior. So you'll notice the interior can be labeled with one label, and then above line M is part of the exterior, and below line N is also part of the exterior. Another definition, alternate interior angles. They are a pair of angles formed by two lines in a transversal. The angles must both lie in the interior of the figure, and they must lie on alternate sides of the transversal, and they must have different vertices. So the two angles marked in red are alternate interior angles for lines M and N with respect to the transversal T. And there are two possible pairs of alternate interior angles for any pair of lines and a related transversal. And the two pairs for this example are shown, the red pair and the blue pair. And now yet another definition, alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles are a pair of angles formed by two lines in a transversal. The angles must lie in the exterior of the figure. They must lie on alternate sides of the transversal and must have different vertices. So much like the alternate interior, there's two possible pairs in this relationship, the red pair and the blue pair. And then one more, corresponding angles. Pairs of angles formed by two lines in a transversal. One angle must lie in the interior of the figure, and the other must lie in the exterior. The angles must lie on the same side of the transversal, but have different vertices. So there's a pair of corresponding angles. And the blue pair is yet another pair of corresponding angles. But so is the green pair, and finally the orange pair. So for corresponding angles, there are four pairs in every situation of two lines that are cut by a transversal. And now we look at the situation where we often look at two lines in a transversal, and that's parallel lines. Parallel lines are coplanar lines that do not intersect, and a pair of parallel lines is shown here. You may have already heard the phrase parallel lines cut by a transversal, and that is what we have here. Lines M and N are parallel, and line T, the green line, is a transversal relative to the two parallel lines. Sometimes diagrams can be a little confusing to deal with because now line S, the other green line, is a second transversal, and the two transversals intersect with line M at the same point. So, with respect to transversal T, I've marked a pair of alternate interior angles in red. And here's a pair of alternate interior angles marked in blue, but this pair is with regard to transversal S. And now we're looking at two pairs of alternate exterior angles. The red pair has to do with transversal T and the two parallel lines, and the blue pair is related to transversal S and the two parallel lines. And here's two pairs of corresponding angles. Notice that in the top red angle, transversal S runs right through the interior of that angle, but the entire angle marked in red is a corresponding angle with the red angle at the bottom right, and that is with the parallel lines related to the transversal T. And the pair of blue marked angles are corresponding angles relative to transversal S. In this lesson, we looked at the definition of plane, a flat, unbounded surface. It has infinite length and width, but no thickness, also known as the height. We also looked at the definition of coplanar. Points, lines, segments, and so forth that lie in the same plane are coplanar. And non-coplanar. Points, lines, segments, and so forth that do not lie in the same plane are non-coplanar. Transversal. A line that intersects two coplanar lines in two distinct points. Alternate interior angles. A pair of angles formed by two lines in a transversal. The angles must lie in the interior of the figure, must lie on alternate sides of the transversal, and must have different vertices. Alternate exterior angles are also a pair of angles formed by two lines in a transversal. The angles must lie in the exterior of the figure, must lie on alternate sides of the transversal, and must have different vertices. And corresponding angles. Another pair of angles formed by two lines in a transversal. One angle must lie in the interior of the figure, and the other must lie in the exterior. The angles must lie on the same side of the transversal, but have different vertices. And parallel lines. Coplanar lines that do not intersect.